Verse 615. There is non-existence when proof of existence is produced. Non-existence does not prove non-existence. Existence, indeed, looks for non-existence. They look for each other and are mutually conditioned. On the face of it, this looks like a rather convoluted philosophical conundrum, but it's actually highly pertinent, highly relevant to our immediate situation. One of the themes of these videos, of this series, has been our relationship with the world. In a way, it is the theme. We have a particular, not just a particular view of the world, but a particular feeling tone. The fact of our own existence in this world, in this understanding of the world that we have, it actually invokes a particular tone. And it depends on your take on the world. And we've all got one. We might not be familiar with that tone, or we might be very familiar with it. Perhaps you feel that you're teetering on the edge of an abyss. Perhaps you feel crushed by the brutality and cruelty which seems to permeate the world. Or on the other hand, perhaps you think it's wonderful. You might even think in terms of God, God's creation, its bounty, it's plentiful, it's beautiful. All things bright and beautiful. It's very wonderful if you feel that way. Perhaps you've tuned into the energy of Mother Gaia, Mother Earth. And you're sensitive to ley lines and channels of energy and so on. So all of these are takes on the world. And what this verse 615 is looking at is a particular take on the world. And it's a very common one. It's a very common one if you're born in a non-Hindu or non-Buddhist culture. It assumes that the world, existence, sprung from non-existence. If you're scientifically inclined, then existence began with the Big Bang. And before the Big Bang, if you can say such a thing, there was non-existence. If you're religious, then at one point there was nothing except God. And then God, from the dark nothing, created something. So from non-existence came existence. So let's have a look at this. Now, this is quite important. It might seem it's just a bit of philosophical speculation. But there's a certain assumption, a certain tone which comes along with this belief, this assumption. And this assumption is that the default state is non-existence. That somehow we're in a kind of anomaly. That dark is somehow the natural state, dark and chaos. That's non-existence, and existence is light and order. So, what is the feeling tone engendered by such an understanding? Well, I suppose that's going to depend a lot on your own particular personality. But it seems to me there'll be a constant fear or anxiety that the light is going to go out. And both religion and science have their light going out stories. And when I talk about religion, I'm talking about the religions that had their origins in the Middle East, the so-called Abrahamic religions of Judaism, Christianity and Islam. They believe that the world began at a certain point through the agency of God, and that it will end at a certain point through Armageddon, which can take various forms depending on your belief. And the scientists believe in the Big Crunch or something similar. At some point all the stars are going to go out and the universe will dissolve into some kind of background radiation once again. So between these two eternal possibilities, that of non-existence and that of perennial extinction, we've got this brief flash of life and light. I think it's a bit depressing. It's a rather depressing story. It doesn't actually reflect how things really are. So that's the story, though, of existence and non-existence, which is what this verse is covering. So let's have a look at it. There is non-existence when proof of existence is produced. So here's proof of existence. When we start thinking about it, we tend to assume at some point there was non-existence. Where did it all come from? Must have come from somewhere. Where it came from, before that point, there wasn't anything. Non-existence does not prove non-existence. Well, non-existence is nothing, you can't see anything. I think the point here is, though, that we can only talk about non-existence when there's existence. Existence, indeed, looks for non-existence. They look for each other and are mutually conditioned. So when there's existence, we think in terms of non-existence to explain existence. And we assume that when there's non-existence at some point, there must be existence. So this is a way of thinking. And it's a way of thinking as enlightenment practitioners we need to be aware of. We need to be aware of this way of thinking, this assumption that we make. Because as enlightenment practitioners, it's not reality. This way of thinking is not reality. So what is reality? What is reality for the Enlightenment practitioner? Well, one of the words that's often used is emptiness. That's not a word I'm particularly happy with, particularly because it kind of fuels that existence, non-existence thing. Emptiness. I think we can easily confuse that with non-existence. Now this emptiness, well, the understanding is that this emptiness is what allows everything to be. Emptiness is like space. And space is full of stuff. And the same with emptiness. Emptiness is so full that there actually isn't any space left. So what am I talking about here? I'm talking about the infinite creative effusion that is going on right now. The effusion of consciousness. Because that's what's happening. A great outflowing of consciousness. Can you see that? That's what's actually happening right now. This whole universe is coming into existence moment by moment. The Big Bang is happening right now, moment to moment. The great effusion of existence, of creation, wasn't at that point 13 billion years ago, or whenever you think God did it. It's happening now. It's happening right now. Every moment is created afresh with its whole history of memories. And emptiness is that which holds it all. Emptiness holds. It's the capacity for this great creative effusion of consciousness. Now, if you can relate to the world in this way, we're entering into a whole different magnitude of relationship with the world. It blows the existence, non-existence understanding out of the water. So this is what we can focus in on as enlightenment practitioners. The fullness of this immediate moment. The richness. The wonder. The suchness. And perhaps even the lovingness and blissfulness of this immediate moment in the creative, in the infinite creative outpouring of consciousness.